call this meeting of the Board of Electoral Board to order, and we will start by a pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, at the table here is the registrar, Dan Kent, whose birthday it is today. Birthday. Deputy Registrar Davis, Nancy Davis. Julie Brown, Deputy Registrar. Board member Betty Gibbs. Myself, David Levy, and Stephen Troxel. Would you all go around and introduce yourselves again?
Gary Woodson, citizen of Lynchburg.
Roz Webb, Cora Sepharadi, citizen.
Peter Sepharadi, citizen.
Carolyn Jamaico, citizen.
Jeff Rosner, Lynchburg Democratic Committee, authorized representative and voter protection liaison.
Michael Bremer, election official.
Thank you. Good. We'll move into the next item of the agenda. We also have a press here for that voter protection. We're going to approve the various the agenda for this meeting, and then the minutes of June 13th. The election canvass, we had an emergency meeting on the 21st of June, continued to the 24th, and the campaign signature meeting. I will say, in the originally published minutes, there was a statement about prior history of the registrar that we have taken out of those minutes because it was not verified or documented. We may do further investigations, but at this point, we have taken those out of the draft that is now on the website. So, be aware. The minutes have been provided. Shall we have a motion about the agenda first?
For the agenda as amended,
As amended, which is,
and
we do have one additional set of minutes that we need in minutes to be. Yes. Amended to that.
Second.
Favor? Anybody opposed? It's passed. Shall we move to the minutes of June 13th, 2023? Is there any modification to the readiness about those minutes?
I think we're doing both closed and open.
Both closed and
I have no change.
good.
It already says. But
I move we adopt the minutes of June 13th, open and closed meeting. All in favor? That's passed. The minutes of let's see. Let's go to June 20th and June 20th.
Canvas.
The canvas. Let's go to the canvas meeting for June 18th. June 20th. You remember there was a holiday in there. But June, are there any privileges, modifications on these? I move that we adopt these minutes.
Second.
Favor? Opposed? Adopt. Okay. the minutes of June 24th. We've done 24th. Let's do the 24th, just to make sure. We have a motion on the minutes of June 24th.
I move we
The minutes of June 21st and 24th. Emergency. By the way, these are interesting subject of the internet. That I guess based on. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of June 21st?
emergency meeting.
Second. All in favor? Pass. So where is the minutes of the campaign signature?
Could you speak up a little bit? We really have a hard time.
Okay. I'm
Thank
sorry, I tend to be muffled.
I
Yes,
think-
the next minutes are the meeting of July 15th, which was an appeal on the denial of the candidacy. And
I don't know, we may not have printed those, so
Yeah,
let me see if you'd like, I can try to put them on the screen if that's helpful.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, they're short.
It involves some signatures, and we verified through Veris
We did these on
a
the
second run that these signatures were good signatures, and the candidate, Ms. Howard, qualified. What we subsequently found out by going on the list of other board members is that it's a situation that has occurred in other localities. That they have
This one,
problems
okay,
with
yeah,
that
there we go.
petition signature verification part of theirs. And it is a good practice to second guess yourself to go into the general database. It's more cumbersome, to be sure.
But when you're that close, I
Yeah,
think it's a good practice.
so
Let's see if I can get that.
there are the small print versions.
Yeah, let's see if I can get it a little bigger. How about that? Oops, maybe a little too big.
Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
A second? A second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's passed. Okay. Do we have any announcements? I will say, this is a very busy time for the registrar of the board. We have a recount coming up next week. Mr. Pence was deposed in the Alexander Ferraldi lawsuit. Mr. Troxel is being deposed next week in that lawsuit. We're very actively monitoring those situations, in addition to training being held for board members and the registrar and deputy registrars in August. So there's just a lot going on. Any other announcements, Dan?
I have, the announcements I have are in my registrar report, so it's okay, I'll defer to that one.
Unless anyone else has an announcement, let's move on to the registrar's report. Thank you for a copy of it.
Okay, let's see if this works. Lots of announcement. All right, registrar's report for July 25th, 2024. In this report, we have some statistical reports, budgetary reports. We actually have included a slide about our page program, which we're restarting at this point for this fall, a list of ongoing projects and a couple of announcements for the board. First statistical report is registered accounts by locality. As you can see here, we are still around 56,984 voters in the locality.
7,570 are inactive, and 49,414 are active. You can see the breakdown across the precincts. And we have a couple of precincts that we've mentioned before that we need to look at whether or not we need to move some lines or break out some, some additional ways of handling the size of the precinct. Specifically, if you look at this, it's 201 and probably 401. Now, they technically are under the line of 5,000, but they're over the line of 4,000, which means we need to be thinking about something of active voters, that is. We need to be thinking about what we do there. Probably for the future, first of all, we need to see what happens with the Department of Elections annual NCOA process, which actually may move some voters from active to inactive status. So it may give us some change on that. But regardless of that, I think we're going to need to look at changes we might need to make, certainly to 201 and 401 going forward. So just to put that on our agenda, possibly for the next meeting.
Well, that's really a post-November issue.
I mean, I don't know if we can do anything about it before November, but I definitely think we need to be planning and making sure that we're ready to handle those changes.
We'll wait for comments. But yes, I think we have to look at it in that context. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Okay, and this is totality statistics for the month of June. So this basically gives you kind of a breakout of how each precinct has changed up and down.
Dan, excuse me, can we back up to the previous
Sure.
slide? Over in the end column, federal,
Yes.
the people in that column, all 76 of them, are those the ones who can vote federal ballot only?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure you want to put.
Locality statistics, month of June. You can see the statistics here. This is per precinct. Gives you an idea about how things are moving up or down. I think we do continue to see some additional voters being registered in 401 and 201 maybe is leveled off this particular month. 305 is also moving in the upward direction. And 404 also moving in the upward direction. So just those are the, and 102 maybe coming up a little bit. So those are the kind of the outliers. Other ones, 303 is down a little bit, and also maybe that's probably the most significant decrease across the board.
The column for felonies there, is that the rights were restored? Right in the month of June.
For the month of June,
Is it felony?
the felony column is it's a downtick column, I believe. It's a downtick column. So it's people who have felony convictions that are taken out of the count.
Okay, so they lost the right. Okay.
Other questions on this?
Good.
The NVRA statistics, this gives you a sense of how many voter registrations came into the office in the month of June and where they came from. As always, we have the most applications coming in the DMV, and that is slightly down from last month. We did have both in the month of April. In the month of April, we had a hold because of the election in March. So there was a blackout period, which we caught up a little bit on in April. We also have a blackout period in June, which knocks those numbers down a little bit. And I expect we'll be catching up when we go to our July numbers. However, as we ramp toward September, I do expect to see those numbers kind of continue to increase, not always from the DMV numbers, but also from the other numbers. I mean, we have people calling, asking to get a T application, so that's been steady, and I expect that will increase as we get to it. Other questions on this slide?
Good.
Okay, we have rolled over to fiscal 2024 over to fiscal 2025. So our budget is we're starting out from fresh again. And that means we've not really spent almost anything in our budget as of yet. We are beginning to spend money just started to spend money for the November election. We pretty much got to the end of our budget pretty even at the end of our budget last time. The tranche that was approved for the city council, the budget request, third quarter budget request, to my understanding, is not showing up here yet. It will happen after the soft close on August 2nd. Also, the money that they approved for the ballot scanners and new voting machines will not show up yet until soft close. That's my understanding. That will be soft close. So when they roll over from one year to another, they basically give a month. So August 2nd is the time that they close out all the other I'm putting in invoices now that are going to get paid in July, but they're actually applied to the previous fiscal year's money. And they basically kind of wrap that all up and tie it up on August 2nd. And then it doesn't mean you can't pay invoices from previous after that. It's just that the way they do their accounting shifts a little bit because they now backdated, I guess. So anyway, apologies, this is so small. By the way, just so you know, if you have a device that you have with you and you want to look at this, the PDF is up on the website. So you could actually look at the website and whatever large you need to do with your device. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this stuff all in one page is pretty tough. So anyway, but you can look at that. But basically for these 3 pages, we're pretty much back to our full budget for the year. I spent very little of it. You can see in the next to the last column there, as much as 0%, it's 1% for what we spent so far, because we're just into the middle of July. Any questions on the financial? Okay, just a quick report on the June dual primary election. We have voter numbers for Democratic election, the Republican election. I also put a little bit about the absentee ballots on this page. You can see the turnout numbers for each precinct. We have a registration number, those who are registered, number who voted, what that percentage turnout looks like against the registered for each of the precincts. And it looks like, I didn't do an average on this, but just this, it looks like we were what, 6 or 7% maybe turnout across the Democratic election. And we're a little higher than that on the Republican side. Ward 4 kind of bumped those numbers a little bit. So we are maybe closer to 10% on that. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't do an average across the whole municipality, but you can kind of see where we're at from these numbers. From the absentee ballots, I have a list there of how many were sent out on the Democratic side, how many were sent out on the Republican side. That's the top line. The total ballots there is 2397. We actually had, if you look down into the invoice I'm showing here, about 2309, I think, was done by the vendor. And then the remainder was done by our office. The percentages break down about 75% of the total absentee ballots were sent on the Democratic election. About 25% were sent in the Republican election. Return rate, you can see there, we had about a return rate of, let's see, about, what was it? Let's look here. About 65% return rate on the Republican and 53% return rate on the Democrat side for a total percentage return of about 56%. And that means about 44% of the ballots that were sent out didn't get returned. This invoice is just to give you a sense of the cost. Now, I actually had a credit for this election with this vendor. So that credit actually brought our numbers down. So it went to about $4,500 and change for our absentee mail out for this election. A little more, you know, if you don't count for the credit, but it's on the order of between $5,000 and $6,000. Okay. Here's another breakout of costs. The reason I put that invoice in the other slide is because I don't have it here for whatever reason that it hasn't been applied to the project yet. So this gives you a breakout of kind of where we spent the money for the election. The total cost was around $50,000. I think we're going to get to about 55 by the time we put everything into the election. That compares to be slightly under what we did for the presidential primary. We were about, I guess, 169, something like that, thousand. The main difference is in the cost we had for temporary personnel services for early voting. So if you look at the top line there, temporary personnel services, that's under the registrar's account, GL account. And that is for people who are helping with early voting. And then as we go down toward the bottom, you'll see like the fourth line from the bottom, the temporary personnel services there is under the registrar's, electoral board, the GL code, and that is for election day. So that's what the election day office cost was for the electoral. You can see other miscellaneous things. We have some charges for software for the vendors who program the voting machines. Forms and stationery is ballots. They may not have sent me the final invoice for the last bunch of ballots, so maybe another couple $1,000s there. And then the minor tools, equipment, and furniture, that's a little bit higher this go round, but that's because we bought a bunch of signs. So all of our signage that we bought was categorized under the minor equipment tools. So that's that breakout. Any questions on that slide?
That's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's our list of ongoing projects. I didn't create special slides for much of these like I've done in the past, because I think we've seen some of this material, but I'll just walk through this from top to bottom. We are still pending grant money for the Homeland Security for our upgrades to the registrar's office, namely cameras and improvements to the security of the front counter. We are still waiting on the EHP review that's being done. We've been told that was only going to take another week or two. I feel like we've been told that before, but anyway, I ran into a lady from VDEM at a training session that Elect had this past week. I got her card and I asked her to chase this through the goalpost for us. And of course, I'm still working with Piper from emergency management here to try and make sure that that all happens. So if I don't hear from her again in another few days, I will probably bring her again to see what success she might be having or not.
And my email that you prompted to the city manager helped at all?
I don't know if you saw the response that he gave. So he basically said, well, we're working with, the emergency management and partners. And I wrote back on that. I think he wrote on that and said, yes, thank you. Piper's been helpful, but, it would be helpful to have someone continue. I think he's willing to maybe make a phone call. I don't know how much leverage they really have.
This particular issue is one that would have helped us with the Dropbox securities if we had had cameras in the registrar's office. And we're lined up for these cameras if we get this grant, but we have not gotten it.
But we have the grant, we just haven't gotten permission from the historical people to be able to put them in a historical building. So that's what the holdup is.
Okay.
Okay. So I left open on our list. I know we haven't come back to this, but a separation of duty document, electoral board and registrar. We'll need to return to that at some point. We also managed to close out a few items here. Relocation to precinct 204 is now complete. Now it's past elementary. That is our current and future location for polling place for 204. We are restarting our page program, which I will have a slide on that a little later, and we've begun to work on that. We still need to work through, and this is an activity that I need to do with you, and I will send you some additional information shortly, getting our backup precinct list updated. We've discovered that a lot of our backup precincts share utility services with our primary precincts, and we are looking at are we able to segregate them to some degree. So that's, I've sent some information on that. We'll be following up with you on that. The optical scanning equipment for our ballots has been approved by the electoral board. I actually have received for the first 5 units from the vendor, and we're slated to use the new units for our recount. And they're programmed already at this point, and I just need to get them out and begin to make sure that everything's in place for them. We finished out our signage upgrade for now. If you have more signage you want to talk about, we can do that as a next item, but right now what we plan to do, we've done. We also finished our MOU with the city. That's completed. We closed out our privately owned polling place agreements. 10 of them are now in place. On the 11th, the precinct decided they did not want to sign. We also don't want to sell the precinct anymore. So that leaves us with a need to relocate the precinct, which we have on our list down below. We closed out our agreement with the LCS, for the school to use the polling place. That agreement is now in place, along with the insurance documents. If we do put Heritage on our list, I believe you're going to do insurance document for Heritage. But let's just see how that evolves. The poll book renewal replacement or considerations we have there. This is because Demtech, which was absorbed by another company and then kind of spat back out again. The parent company, or now parent company, was saying they weren't going to support Demtech poll software anymore. However, the owner of the company, Demtech, is reformulating his company under another business name, and he is going to be offering support post the November election. So we have support through the November election from the existing vendor, and then I'm expecting a continued conversation. This Mike Brown is the one who owns that. I talked to him today, and they're still pending some approvals from the Department of Elections. Right now, they're offering a service for support contracts, which is what we need. So essentially, what this does for us, we may still decide that we want to evaluate other local vendors, but it means that the fire that under us, maybe we can get up from the fire by signing a short-term contract with his new reform company. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, and I'll keep you up to date as things evolve there. But that was the net result of my conversation with Mike on today. Precinct 301 location, I think we've talked about this, and don't know if this is on our active list, but it's still on our list of things to look at.
Just as a note for people listening, we don't want to deal with 301 until after November because we don't want to confuse people. So it's not going to come up in conversation because we don't want to think we're moving 301 until we're ready to do that. So you're not going to hear much about 301 until after November.
Okay. I've closed the item for the grant for paper poll book replacement because we actually don't use paper poll books, and we've decided that we would need to get a longer term decision on how we would poll books before we would look at investing in ballot and demand printers. So just close that for now. That means we won't be eligible to get the grant. That opportunity is passed by at this point, but we didn't feel like we were ready to take advantage of that. We do need to upgrade the voting system security plan. The deadline for that is early in September 6th. So that's something that needs to be on our agenda to go over in a closed session, and then update that plan in terms of the Department of Elections. We also now have the relocation of precinct 304 since the existing polling place is decided to go to a certain polling place. So as of right now, I have a call into Heritage High School. I spoke with the principal there. He's happy for us to do a site review. And I reached out to the chief custodian who he referred me to. I haven't heard back, but it sounds like it's possible for us maybe to go and just do an ad hoc visit there. He seemed like he was comfortable with this meeting with the principal, the custodian or anybody else who will take us around. He described the facility that he recommends for us, which is their cafeteria, because it has a direct doorway out onto the next to the parking lot. So I think one of the concerns was this parking lot's a narrow hallway to get to the cafeteria. He tells me that there's a way to go from the parking lot across the patio straight into the cafeteria.
Let's discuss this relocation when we get to that agenda.
Okay, that's fine. So anyway, so that's background material, so you guys can go with that. And then the last item I have here came on just recently. There used to be a terminal for voters to be able to look up voter listings. This is software that's provided by the Department of Elections. The terminal we were using for that was on Windows 7, so it was no longer supported by the IT department. I've actually ordered a fresh laptop to be used for this, and I've gotten the software downloaded from Elect. I tried it out. It looks like it works okay. So once I get that laptop in, we will put that software on there and have that available for
Good.
Page program, I would let Julie speak to this.
So my update is that we have officially started. So this is a screenshot from our website. And so we now have our website page is up and running. I put a flyer out for anybody that wants to pass it around. And I have already posted on our website, the application is up and live, as well as a permission slip. And some detailed information, and then under this on the website page is my contact info. I also sent out 2 emails. One of them I sent to contacts at Easy Glass, Heritage, New Covenant, Virginia Episcopal School, and LCA, as well as to a couple of homeschool co-ops that I found through Google search. So I found some emails from homeschool co-ops as well in the area. I've sent emails to all of those schools that I've been able to find contact info for. I have received 1 response so far, and that was just a question. So I'm going to give them a few weeks. I know a lot of people are still on vacation, and then we'll try to reach out by phone as well about the opportunity from them.
Was the question from like one of the schools or a potential
It was from
applicant?
homeschool co-op. They wanted to know, they had some students that lived outside of Lynchburg City, Campbell County, they wanted to know if they still qualified. Upon Dan's permission, as long as they had a legal Virginia residency. So,
Okay, any other questions on that?
Good. Glad it's moving.
Okay, we are, here's here at the announcements page here. And so just want to make everybody aware the registrar's office will be closed Monday, August 5th through noon on Tuesday, August 6th for staff training. VRAD is the week of August 5th there. And Julie and I will be going to the full 3 days of that, and Nancy's going to go for the first day. So we're going to be closed on Monday and then reopened by noon on the Tuesday. We also want to make sure everyone's aware, I think it's on the agenda, but just a couple of quick bullet points, that we have a primary recount for the U.S. House 5th District. The Republican primary has been put into a recount because of the 2 parties, 2 candidates being within 1% of each other. We're going to be holding our local recount at the circuit court starting at 7:30 a.m. on August 1st. The order that came down from the court is distributing the recount activities across localities. So each locality is doing their own recount. Then they're going to take all the data and they're going to pass that all up into the Goochland court, like I say here. Our plan presently, looks like we can do this according to the order. Now it's been revised a couple times, so we're going to keep an eye on that. But we're going to have 3 teams of 2 plus 4 alternates for the officers, the team, recount teams. They're composed of election officers who served in the election that we have just, this primary election. We will have attorneys and observers for the candidates that are allowed. We have a list of that from the court now. I imagine some of that might be additionally, there might be additions to that, I don't know. General public and the media are supposed to register with the Goochland Court in order to attend. So even though it's an open meeting, for whatever reason, the court has asked people to let them know that they want to attend. So that's just what the court order, that's a summary of what's in the court order. A lot of technical details, but that's just for the public, summary. We're going to be closed on September 2nd in observance of Labor Day. I mentioned that just because our next meeting is not until September 5th, Thursday, September 5th. So you're aware of that. And again, early voting for the November 5th general election will begin later in September as we have here.
Dan, for our next meeting, September 5th, will we be deciding on a ballot order at that meeting, or will that happen before?
On a ballot order?
Yeah, ballot order. We're going to have ballots.
We're going to have ballots, but I'm not sure if there's an order decision for the local electoral board.
He just means buying that kind of work.
Oh, order, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought you were talking about actually framing out how the ballots are.
No.
Well, so I have to, we have to have ballots in hand by September 20th for early voting, right?
Exactly.
So they're telling us that we're not going to have the ballot proofs done until the first week of September. So maybe we'll be ready by I can stage a proposed order, even if I haven't actually ordered them at that point. But I can certainly have that conversation and prepare what we think we should do.
Yeah, you can run it by the individual board members.
Yeah.
I don't know that it needs to be an agenda item.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very tight turnaround, so I know, so, I mean, we can guess at the numbers based on previous, we'll do the same analysis we've done before, which is previous turnouts of general elections. So, yeah, sure, I can absolutely have that conversation with you. So, okay, you have some heads up on that.
Okay, any questions on readiness on the report of the registrar? Do I hear a motion to accept the report?
So,
A second. In favor? Opposed? Motion is passed. Shall we move on to old business, relocation of 301? I think Mr. Fox will do it as we are not going to do that.
right, we do not want to cause any confusion with the voters, so we'll wait until after we get through this important election. We wait on 304, we're not allowed to because we don't have a polling place.
Did you inform the councilman for that board?
I talked with him at a city council meeting, he has not gotten back to me.
Okay, any more information on relocation of 301? Moving on to update on purchase of the FBS scanners. You say you have 5 of them?
Yeah, so I do have 5 of them. And like I mentioned, they've been delivered. I've not gotten an invoice for them yet, which is fine. I actually told the vendor that we have a soft close after August 2nd, so they know. They're telling me they won't send us an invoice until we have them all, we've checked them out, and we're happy with them. So that's good. That's a good vendor, right? Yeah.
Excuse me, when you say you have 5, does that include the 2 that we,
No, so I have 5 additional ones.
so we're up to at least 7?
So in-house of the total amount, now remember our order, we had 2 that we ordered additional. So of the new order, I have 5 of them.
We're all together going to have.
We should have 26, I think was the total number 26.
26.
Yeah, maybe it's, I'm sorry. But we ordered 22 more, we had 2, so it's total 24. That's 26.
Now, Dan, you and I had a conversation about the high-speed scanner.
Yes.
And we had a glitch with the high-speed scanner. It did not count the votes accurately. decided in this last election not to use it. And you and I have discussed trying to get it back and test it before the November election.
Yeah, so my thought on this is the detail around that glitch has to do with the fact that we have, this is, you know, a matter of course, when you have a vendor sending you mailed absentee. So they print the mailed absentee ballot that goes out with the mail out that they do. And then you have your vendor who provides your scanning equipment, typically provide the ballots. Although not every locality does. Some localities have another printer print their ballots, but in our case, we've been using the same vendor. And the theory is that you don't have two vendors pointing their fingers at each other in case something goes wrong. And of course, that's in a way kind of exactly what happened in this last election when the LNA testing showed an error on one ballot. We kind of immediately stopped everything and talked to both vendors. The conclusion, I think, just to make a longer story short, was that the vendor who was doing our mail out had sent us a test stack, which we were running to make sure their ballots would work correctly, which wasn't exactly the same as the ballots they were going to mail, nor was it exactly the same as the ballots that the other vendor produced. The timing marks were just a fraction smaller. And so we don't know 100% that was the issue. I did, by the way, talk to that vendor again this morning. They actually called me to discuss kind of where we were at. And I told them that, you know, we don't, at this point, I have a decision of the board to not use them again. So I think, you know, unless we want to go down that path, I don't think what they've done as far as is problematic, except for that one test stack potentially. I don't have a smoking gun on that test stack other than just noting something slightly different. So my recommendation, I guess, is that we would get a test stack. They're aware of what we gave the feedback on, and we do some, maybe even some stress testing along with our LNA testing for our next round, and make a determination at that point if we want to use it again.
The problem here is that our high-speed scanner really is a valuable tool in our CAP precinct.
Yeah.
It really helps the people in CAP process ballots much more quickly. And it would be highly desirable with the extent of the balloting to have us in a position to have that working. And several workers come to me.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's move on. I think, Julie, you've reported on the status of the page program. Any other old business? Then shall the board turn over to new business? And the first item is campaign signs at polling places. We had a complaint from one polling place this time. Dan, would you repeat that complaint?
Yeah, so we had a complaint that basically the signage was, like the campaign, campaigns they put up was too large. It was blocking visibility from people getting in and out of the driveway. They were concerned about people not being able to see, traffic problems. Additionally, as sometimes has happened in previous elections, the campaigns weren't very diligent about going and collecting their signs immediately afterwards. So I think we had maybe even two places tell us that there were signs that were left there and that they wanted them to be cleaned up. So we passed that information along to campaigns. I think because it came to the board was thinking about how they might address this going forward.
Yeah, we were talking about putting something in the polling place agreement to make sure that the people at the polling places realize what they can do. That there are laws in Lynchburg about these campaign signs and being taken down where they are. So we may just include an informational sheet to our polling places about these laws. I don't think we have to revise the polling place agreement as such.
I mean, I think for what it's worth, they would prefer the campaigns did what they're supposed to do and took them away. I mean, because they're not going to give them and took them away, but you know, I think they would hope that the campaigns would do that as well. So
exactly. And they're very good people to allow us to have
I think if we send the informational pieces about what the law says to the campaigns, that might help a little bit, because some of them just think, oh, they're gonna, somebody will throw them away. That's not how it works.
Good. Any further comments on campaign signs, board members? What about the relocation of the precinct for 304? Steve, you've been working on that.
There are not a lot of places within the precinct that are big enough, and comfortable enough for people that also meet the ADA requirements. I checked with one church and they talked with their board and they decided they did not want to do it. I talked with CVCC, but their problem is they don't have enough parking for their students, particularly on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. So they would have to alter their calendar before we could go there, which leaves us with Heritage. And I say leaves us with Heritage. Dan and I have not yet gone over. Someone expressed a
I
concern.
think you should be specific on heritage, since you have a Methodist church, a Baptist church, a high school.
Sorry.
Heritage High School,
Sorry.
because Heritage Methodist is in 3.5, not 3.4, and Baptist is in 101. But the high school, someone expressed a concern that exit from the cafeteria might not meet ADA standards, which is why Dan and I need to go over and take a look to make sure that it does meet the ADA standards and the other concerns that we have. Dan and I apparently are going to go over there tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, that's, if we can, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask, how will the paperwork process take place to adopt that precinct? We have to get city council to approve it, we have to submit it to the state.
Yeah, we have to publish it in the paper weeks in advance, so there is a process that we have to follow very much. We just kind of went through this with 204. So I think the reason for the hurry up a little bit on making a decision is that we do have all this process and we don't have a location right now for November, so we have to get this done before November. So I think we're going to be on an accelerated timeframe as much as we can.
And I remember the deadlines and the amount of time involved. We were almost too late getting pushing the limits.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, if you do it outside of, to do a regular change, it should be outside of the 60-day mark. If you're inside the 60-day mark, then it becomes an emergency change. The paperwork required for the emergency change is obviously less. So I would say that would be our fallback position if we have to do that. Ideally, we would make a decision very quickly about using this as a precinct, and then we would put the paperwork through. It will take time. If we do get the Attorney General's opinion, that seems like that's kind of the longest time it takes.
Should we go ahead and approve Heritage High School today?
I would think if you're willing to do that, you could do that.
If we don't have, if they refuse to sign a polling place agreement with us, then we look at our emergency situation.
Yeah, I think unless you disagree, I think you should approve that as I don't know how you, whatever language you want to put, but pending whatever you want to pen, but say that you approve of that if the stars align.
I would make a motion that we approve Heritage High School as the new precinct for 304. And if they are unwilling, the school system is unwilling to sign an agreement for a polling place, that you bring it back to the board for emergency meetings.
And my understanding about the entrances, the ADA issue is that there are ADA compliant entrances. They may be further away than we would like, but if that cafeteria door that they've discussed is not ADA compliant, we can still get people in under ADA and, just more signage.
Yeah.
I go ahead and move that we adopt 304. And if there isn't a polling place agreement signed, expeditiously, we then back to the board.
Okay.
Any second?
Yes. So,
Favor?
aye.
It's passed. Let's move on to the good McGuire recounts. I think one action that this board needs to take is name board members as the coordinators. And Dan, do you have a sense of the coordinator role?
Well, I mean, you're going to be superintending what's taking place, right? So, first of all, I think you need to, be familiar with this document, right? Which is really,
Which document
this is the
The
third,
latest.
yeah, whatever the latest is, and this, who knows, this may not be the last, right? If they've been amending this rather than. But the definition of what the recap coordinator does is somewhat outlined here. I also sent you guys a copy of the recounts 101 PowerPoint. There's also a recount step-by-step, so you should look at that. And the other resource which is useful for this is chapter 15. So I would recommend all those are the sources of what you.
The statute requires, we've already provided election officer names to become part of the recount, and that they're being selected by the recount board and the campaigns. But we have to name 2 coordinators out of the 3 board members as people to act as a role essentially of supervising the local recount. One of them has to be from Harvard. So I'm appointed. And the question is, Betty and Steve. Steve, I understand you are slated to be out of town. So Betty, are you available to be a coordinator?
Yes.
Okay. I move that the board appoint us, Betty and myself, as our coordinators for the recount. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's passed. Okay. Dan, are there other actions the board should take about the recount?
So I have studied the initial version of the board order, and I'm now, since it literally just came out just before this meeting, and I haven't had a chance to go through this in detail. I actually have had a staff member do some highlights for me, so that's helpful. But I will need to go through this in detail to discuss that. I have spent a bit of time with the circuit court clerk over the last week to talk about some of the logistics. We've actually ironed some of that out. For example, we are, like I mentioned in my PowerPoint here, we're going to hold the event at the circuit court. I think it's courtroom B that they have allocated for this on August 1st. And we've talked a little bit about the logistics of ballots and making sure observers are able to see the online testing and also the transfer of ballots from downstairs in their room to upstairs in the courtroom. So they'll also need to be providing boxed lunches, which he says that they can do. They have a jury, they have a standard method they use for juries. So they'll trigger that for our weekend. And there's a bunch of other details with that, but we've gone through some of that. We're going to be ironing out more of that, which I'll share with you this weekend.
That's good. That's good. There's a place for the media too in the recount process, by the way, but not the public.
Well, I'm reading, so this is reading the documentation on this. It seems like it's supposed to be a public event. However, the court order does ask for people to essentially register with the court.
That's right.
So
there's no discussion of the public being in the room.
So I think anyone who wants to attend needs to reach out to the court clerk in Bridgeland and get on that list.
That's right. This is a complicated process, but simple in a way. We basically recount the ballots for this election. They initially didn't tell us which election to recount the ballots. But we are ready to go on that.
Yeah, we have some logistics to work out, so but we're continuing. I sent you a little bit of a summary, but I'll send you a more detailed summary as we get.
Any other questions about the recap?
Once we have the final version report.
Let me
Latest version is
Let me say in this context that it's not really covered by the recount suit, but we are tangentially involved in the Feraldi Alexander suit, as you know. What is happening in that, and let me announce that for those who don't know, is that the judge has denied the ability to submit affidavits, is not looking for oral testimony for anyone. The evidence for that suit is collected by depositions. And the depositions so far that have been held have been just Dan's. Steve Hoffman will have his deposition next week. But other than that, there does not seem to be any other deposition that we know about. The judge is aiming for a hearing on August 9th, which may be a concluding hearing on that suit. The judge is aware that we need to have a candidate. It's certainly positioned for the ballots. It's been a time-consuming situation. And if you want to have some report on what the law is and what the actual issues are in the city, I spoke to city council about that. It's in the video of the meeting of council on the 8th of July. But that's where we are. Moving on to the virtual and remote meeting policy. The law was amended in, and that's really my topic. The law was amended in the last session of the legislature to liberalize the ability to have virtual meetings or remote meetings if we adopt a policy. I've started collecting policies from other localities in the state. And I have some good drafts of them. And so by the next meeting, I anticipate presenting a draft policy that will allow us to set up remote participation by board members or else occasionally a remote meeting. And it's going to be pretty limited to do that, but I think it's in this day and age, it's something we should be able to do. Any concerns or questions? Okay, any other items of new business? Okay, shall we open the floor to public comments? You had a comment earlier.
So, thank you. Specifically, I wanted to speak to the comments about splitting precincts. The law, which is 24.2-07, specifically says that when you establish a precinct, it can have no more than 5,000 registered voters. The next thing that happens is the only other time you are required to make a change in the number of people within a precinct has to do with when there is more than 4,000 people who vote in a presidential election. So that's how you cannot make any changes because of size until after this presidential election. And so it's really important to look at 307 and see how that is worded. The only other thing I can think of in terms of when you might want to split a precinct is when you do not have the equipment, you do not have a size space big enough to hold the number of people who turn out to vote. So far, in my experience and what I've seen since I left the office, it's been rare that 4,000 people in a single precinct. It just doesn't even come close. So that's my comment about that. I do have a couple of other things. We were talking about the Dropbox security and security issues. And if you haven't had a chance to go and look at Amherst County yet, I was there for another reason, and their drop box is bolted to a cement floor with a camera on it and a cover on it. So I got a demonstration when I was there. It was really very nice. So that sort of kind of goes back into whether or not the Kemper Street Station is a listed building with the landmarks, historic landmarks. Is it?
I think so. I think that's the issue. I mean, we haven't been told.
Yeah, right. Is there a historic district?
Yeah, this is not a district.
That's what I thought. And have you been talking with the Historical Preservation Commission?
Local persons, no, we have not talked to them. I mean, honestly, I hadn't thought about that, but I think it's, this VDEM and FEMA, DHS, not DHS, they're the ones that kind of have their hands on this thing. So I don't know, are you suggesting maybe they would tell them that's not part of the historic? Is that what you're thinking? Maybe you would
You
help?
mentioned there was some controversy about the Dropbox, about the cameras. And so I was thinking in terms of a Dropbox exterior to the interior of the building.
Yeah, so.
And, a secure thing with a camera on it, so we could do that.
Is the Amherst Dropbox exterior to their building?
Yes, it is. Yes, I would recommend looking at it as an example. I don't know what Campbell County has done, or Bedford County, or anything like that. I just happened to be there, and I said, oh, look at that. So it seems to be very secure.
There are two flavors. I know you know this. There are two flavors of Dropbox, right? So one is a unmonitored Dropbox that would be, I say, outside, and the other one's a monitored Dropbox, right? I've looked over the revenue on this pretty carefully, and so right now we're in a category of a monitored Dropbox because it's inside and it's got staff looking at it, right? So maybe what you're suggesting is we would switch that to the different category of Dropbox,
Perhaps.
right? Maybe
Perhaps,
that's
I
what
didn't
you're
know.
suggesting. Okay.
I was just kind of impressed with this. I thought,
Okay.
we got talking about it. I would recommend
It's an interesting suggestion.
taking a look at it, because then it's exterior to the building, and it's got all kinds of locks on it. It's really cool. But that's it. And the final thing is, I am remiss in this regarding campaign signs. I happened to be driving by because I wanted to see if there was a line at my precinct. I'd already voted, but I drove by, and there appeared to be campaign signs at Lincoln Middle School, which is 404, inside the 40-foot, because they were up against the building. And I know the 40-foot goes out to the end of the sidewalk. Next time I'll take pictures.
Yeah.
But I didn't want anybody calling the cops on me, because I was thinking.
Okay.
Not voting. But I've got to go there, I'll go take it.
Carolyn, were they within 40 feet of the entrance to the building?
Yes. And they were, you know, how you set up the 40-foot thing, you know, at the end of the sidewalk.
They were inside that.
They were at the end of the sidewalk is where the 40-foot is, right? So they were inside that, up against the building. As you turn the corner to go around.
Within 40 feet of the entrance to the building?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure.
Okay. But I did want to mention it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I was concerned about the fire alarms that went off on election day, and can the schools be asked not to do fire drills on election day?
So I had some information on that, if you want me to share that. Is that what I should? Okay. So I did go back to Liberty University when we had, because we're talking about a fire alarm that went off at Liberty University, right? So we do have
There
it.
were three, I heard, at three different schools.
Yeah, it happened at my school.
Theirs was not a drill at Liberty,
It was a
something
drill.
was set theirs off.
Right.
Her and Kurt. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have an incident log. I don't know, did you put yours in the incident log? I think you did, right?
No, because I didn't really, I asked about it and they said it'll be going off in a minute, don't worry about it, so I just put it down.
Okay. Just to be helpful to us,
I know, it
it
didn't
would be
even
really
know.
good to actually put that in the incident log,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
now, like I said, first time I'm really hearing
Yeah.
about this, so it would be good for us to know that. The one at Liberty University I was aware of, Kurt went ahead and did document that. I asked him, he put like 3 lines and I said, no, I want you to give me more like a paragraph. So he, kind of did more of a blow by blow. Because I knew that was, going to be a question mark as what's going on there, right? So I did reach out to Liberty University. I reached out to my contacts there. They put me through the people who are in charge of their emergency management. What they told us was that there was no pole station polling, right? So that was kind of a critical piece of information. But they believed that the reason the fire alarm went off is because they were cleaning some area
Well,
near
that's
a.
different. Okay.
Right, so if they would have found a pole station pole, that would have been interesting to know, right? Because it would have been someone had done something to
Right.
add to the building, right?
Right.
But what they're telling us was no pole station was pulled, that, you know, one of the smoke alarms was triggered, they believe, by some cleaning, some dust that went up from
Okay.
cleaning. Now, it also raised a question for me, this is why I asked Kurt to write a little more detail of, okay, how did we secure the
Right.
precinct when everybody went out, right? So he did tell me that the door was locked, they went out, but they were able to get into the place without it being unlocked. So he also told me, which made me a little concerned, he also told me we were able to stand in a place that we were able to see the doors of the precinct the whole time. So I felt like he understood the dilemma and was trying to do what he could to, I mean, look, you don't walk in on the election day thinking you're gonna have to run out for a fire alarm, but you gotta be prepared for that, right? So he said they were able to watch the doors of the precinct, and they felt everything was secured. When they came back in, nothing was changed, nothing was moved, so they were okay.
Well, I was more concerned about the fire drill that
Yeah.
didn't come to me that day, but I guess you didn't know about it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Where was it?
It was
Sandusky.
Sandusky, yeah.
Where was it?
That was-
Oh,
Just
Okay.
ancient memory, ancient history. There was, in the precinct manuals that were used ancient
Yeah.
history time, there was a document in there about what to do when you had to leave the polling place. And it talked about taking things with you and the procedure for doing that. So if you dig that out, you might want to.
Yeah, I did actually dig through some documents, and I do remember seeing a couple of different, things that could be related to this. I mean, obviously, we have to think about, that importance of that. If they were gonna be gone for a long time, right, that would be maybe take it with them and secure it. I'll let the board, I default to the boards, how they recommend on this, but I don't want to make anybody stay in a burning building, right, any longer than they have to, so.
Sure. This is not an unforeseen incident that we should be able to, it may be good to dig out that policy about what was done, just to make sure our chiefs know.
Yeah.
what Might be done.
I agree.
Any other comments? Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that I took notes correctly on the approval of the minutes of the emergency meeting. So is it correct that what was approved today is the version that was posted on the registrar's website this afternoon and has certain language taken out, as the chair mentioned at the beginning of the
That is
meeting?
correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you all for coming. And
We adjourn.
second. All in favor?
Next.
Oh, I'm sorry. You take your leave.
I wake up at 6 every day. It takes me a while to.
Okay.
Other than somebody's awake, but you don't
No, I leave Sunday, so they didn't come today, but they come today. Okay,
Listen, we're not.
that's fine, no, that's fine, I didn't know what to.
Yeah, we're
Is
trying
there
to make
somebody I can call?
I don't know, I have one or two people.
Yeah. Okay, my experience, because if I'm gone, then,
Go get something, Mark.
okay.
All right.
We have.
Yeah.